All right. Let's see. We're going to pop on in here. We'll talk some Preds. All right. All right. Okay. There we go. See if we get some people to join in, and we'll just start talking. So, see if we get some people to join in, and we'll just start talking. So, all right. There we go. Hello, everybody. This is going to be a weekly show. Hopefully, we'll do this as often as possible, and essentially, it's going to be just a Preds Q&A. If you have any in particular any Preds questions that you'd like answered, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Of course, if you don't know, my name is Kristopher Martel of Fox Sports Tennessee, and I'm also the co-host of the Neutral Zone on 104.5 The Zone. We have a radio show that's Preds hockey related, and it's on Wednesday nights from 8 to 9 p.m. So if you're listening to the show and I haven't answered the questions you want answered, feel free to hop in here on Thursdays, which is what we'll try to do for this for these Q&As. QAs and ask me the questions you have. But we'll go ahead and start, and we'll talk about the Austin Watson situation a little bit. It's not something I'm really gonna, like I said yesterday, I'm not gonna really speculate too much about it. But of course, I think the biggest opinion you got to have about this is what could potentially happen. I'm not going to speculate as to the future of Austin Watson, but there's of course two possibilities that could potentially happen down the road once the NHL makes their decision. The NHL could suspend him, or they could recommend the Preds cut him, and I don't even know if they can even make that recommendation. So, but I think one of the things you got to really ask yourself is if the NHL decides to suspend Austin Watson, is it enough? If the Preds it's kind of a catch-22 for them. It's one of those situations where, pardon my language, but damned if you do, damned if you don't. So I think Nashville's got their work cut out for them when it comes to the status of Austin Watson come time for the season. So we're going to learn a lot about that here in the upcoming weeks. I don't think it's going to be something that's going to be resolved tomorrow. I don't think it's going to be something that's going to be resolved next week. I think it's probably going to be something that we're going to expect to see a month, maybe, of just kind of watching and waiting for something to happen. That being said, if the Predators are perhaps without the services of Austin Watson for any point in time during this season, who does Nashville look at taking over that role for Austin Watson? A lot of people may think that it could be Zach Rinaldo. Now, we talked to Scott Nickel last week on the Neutral Zone, and he said point blank that he doesn't expect Zach Rinaldo to spend much or any time at all in Milwaukee. He expects him to come out and have a great training camp, and he doesn't even know if he's going to see Zach Rinaldo in Milwaukee. And to me, that says a lot. It says that Zach Rinaldo is a Peter Laviolette guy. This is a guy that was that has played in Peter Laviolette's system when Laviolette was in Philadelphia. This is a guy who knows how Peter Laviolette works and can kind of really mold himself into the system. But at the same time, this is a guy who is suspension prone. I mean, let's take a look real quick at some of his statistics. And I apologize about the sniffles. I'm having some really weird allergy-related stuff going on. I assume it's probably just because of Tennessee. Tennessee is really weird. But let's look at just some of the suspensions he's had. 8 games for charging Chris Letang, and he forfeited 73 grand. He was suspended in 2016, March 1st, for 5 games for an illegal hit to Cedric Paquette. And March 4th, 2016, he faced suspension in the AHL. So this is a guy who has been suspended every year of his professional career. Does that make him a bad player? I don't think it makes him a good player, but at the same time, I think that's something that is probably going to have to be really kind of watched and honed in on through the season. If Zach Rinaldo finds himself at any point in time, he gets himself suspended, that's probably going to be it for Zach Rinaldo. I think the one thing that Predators fans probably really need to look at in regards to this signing is, if Zach Rinaldo works out for Nashville, great. No harm, no foul. He works out. He becomes a valued member of the Predators team. That's awesome. If he doesn't work out, if he gets suspended in week 1, then everybody can go, ha ha, told you so, and carry on from there. Now, I feel like it's one of those things where you've really got to, you really have to just kind of take with the good with the bad with Zach Rinaldo. So, I wouldn't get too upset about it. Don't work yourself. I got something on me. Don't work yourself up about Zach Rinaldo. Just don't. I don't think it's worth your time. I don't think it's worth the pressure to work yourself up about Zach Rinaldo. So just let it go for right now. And when it gets to training camp, we'll see how it works out. We don't even know. Ellie Tolvanen could have a great camp, and he could end up in that spot. So if you have any questions, pop them in the chat, which is down here, down there, down that way. So pop them in the chat if you have any. How would I grade the Preds prospect pool as a whole? Ryan Shannon asks me that. That's a very good question. I think if we're grading the Preds prospect pool, I think the first thing you have to look at is they went through, I guess, a spurt where they weren't strong defensively, and I think that has become one of their strongest assets over the last couple of years. Of course, you have Alex Carrier and Dante Fabro kind of really becoming the next 2 guys to come up for the Predators here in the upcoming, I would say, the next year, maybe 2 years. And those are guys who are going to excel at the NHL level when they do get up there. Hopefully, at least that's what I'm thinking. I think that they're going to be really good NHL players. So I think defensively, you look at them and some of the rest of the players that the Predators have defensively for their prospect pool. But then you got to look offensively, and I think that's really one of the ways that you have to really examine them, because offensively, Nashville has never really been a team that's had a lot of offensive drafted talent. That's not something that I think that they've really excelled in terms of their scouting staff. And that's not a knock at their scouting staff. I think their scouting staff is one of the best in the league. I just think it's tough. It's tough to really scout for forwards because they're a dime a dozen. And once you get past the first round, and even in the first round, you really don't know what you're going to get. But when you look at what Nashville has in the prospect pool right now in terms of offensive talent, you still got a player like Freddie Gaudreau, who hasn't really hasn't really seen the time yet in Nashville. You got Yakov Trenin. We don't really know the status of him yet. We don't know if he's going to. We assume he's going to be in Milwaukee and not the KHL. Anthony Richard, Emil Pedersen, Thomas Novak, Tyler Moy, Grant Mismash. These are all these guys who have a lot of potential to be fairly good offensive prospects in the years to come. Defensively, like I said, Alex Carrier and Dante Fabra are going to be elite talent, I think, in my opinion. Jack Doherty, I think I think the jury's still out on him. I'm not really sure what we're going to end up seeing from Jack Doherty, so it'll be interesting to tell. And goaltending wise, there's a lot of talent that's come over from the Czech Republic. So I think if you were going to ask for like an A to F rating for Nashville's prospect pool, I think you're probably going to want to go to a C plus B minus. It's not the best prospect pool, but at the same time, it's solid. It's solid, and it's going to provide them with some depth down the road, especially if any kind of injuries were to happen. This season, that is. What are the odds of the Preds' top four? I hope I'm not too loud. What are the odds of the Preds' top four defensemen are still together 3 years from now? I think that's a very good question. Let's look. Let's take a look. I know that a lot of their defense are going to be intact for a while. So at the end of this season, Ryan Ellis and Anthony Bitetto are both unrestricted free agents. We all know about the Ryan Ellis situation. We all know that that they're working on and getting a potential deal together with him. I think a lot of people are freaking out about it a little too much. But when you look 3 years down the road, here's what your defense looks like. The only two people that are signed 3 years down the road are PK Subban and Matthias Ekholm. Those are the only two locked-in players, trades notwithstanding, that are locked in as Predators defensemen for 2+ seasons. Past that, Roman Josi expires after next year. He'll be an unrestricted free agent, and I can just go ahead and tell you right now that if the Preds don't re-sign him, I'd be shocked. And I expect him to make somewhere north of $10 million a year. If they get him for $10 million, I think that's a steal. I think they should be happy if they do. Ryan Ellis is a question mark. I don't really necessarily know what's going to happen with Ryan Ellis after this season. I expect the Preds to re-sign him before the end of the season. I expect that to happen. I don't see a way that the Preds don't have the money or term that Ryan Ellis is going to want to stay with the team. So I fully expect Nashville to get that contract done and sign it long term. So if that holds true, you'll have Subban, Josi, Ellis, and Ekholm signed for years down the road. Because I mean, his contract's not up until the end of the 2021-22 season. Same for Ekholm. And if Josi and Ellis both re-sign in the next couple of years, you can expect 7 to 8 year deals for both of them. Maybe a little bit less, maybe 6 years, and that will bring them all the way through 2025, 2026. That's crazy. just on a tangent real quick. That's crazy to think that the year 2020 isn't that far away. It was funny that just a handful of years ago we were so, like 2015, it was Back to the Future. So, but that's far and beyond what we're talking about. But yeah, I think the odds are pretty good that Nashville's top four defense are still together 3 years from now. Of course, the big question mark is just Ryan Ellis. What is that on my screen? What is that? Hold on. Let's see if we can get that off. Did we get it? Yeah, we got it. Okay. But yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. I think the odds are pretty good that Nashville's defense stays intact. I think another good question is goaltending. What's going to happen with the goaltenders? Pekka Rinne's $7 million contract ends at the end of the season. And is he going to resign? Is he going to re-sign with Nashville? Is he going to play second fiddle to UC Saros in the upcoming years? I kind of think that UC Saros is going to be the starting goaltender after this year. It's kind of hard not to see him be the starting goaltender after this year. He is just such a talented individual that he has bided his time, and I think he's absolutely deserving of it. Now, if, let's say, for example, that Pekka Rinne plays 50 to 60 games this year, duplicates his Vezina winning performance from last season, takes Nashville all the way to the Stanley Cup final, maybe even wins a cup, what happens then? Still wouldn't shock me if the Preds re-sign him to a 2 or 3 year deal and potentially even continue to be the starter. If Pekka Rinne is the starter next season, if he's the starter next season over UC Saros, I don't think that's a big concern. I think giving UC Saros more and more playing time as he develops, it's just going to be better for him. So, do I think UC Saros is a starter after this season? I do. Do I think Pekka Rinne stays with the Predators? I do. Do I know how they're going to balance that? I don't. I could just give you my opinion, and my opinion is it's going to be. I still think it's going to eventually. It's going to be 50-30 this year, and after that, maybe it'll be a 40-40 split. So we'll see from there. If you have any questions, I know there's not a whole bunch in here right now. We'll try to get these do these things as often as possible, so at least once a week, to where we can hopefully build up as the season gets closer. It's crazy to think we're only 4 or 5 weeks away from training camp and the rookie camp especially. Just a quick summer. Summer's almost over, so. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. If not, we're going to just probably talk about one more thing real quick. We'll talk about Dan Hamhuis, and then we will call it for the night. So let's talk about Dan Hamhuis real quick. There's a lot of people that don't feel that he is Nashville's best option for their fifth defenseman, that he's going to be good on that third pairing. But let me tell you, with how Nashville's third pairing played last season and how non-impactful they were, I guess how much of a liability they were when they were on the ice, was disastrous for Nashville. Anytime that they had to play that third pairing, it was put them on the ice, get them off the ice as quick as possible, and rely on the top two pairings to really kind of bolster the load. They were a liability. Yamelin, Irwin, Boteto, and even to an extent Weber, they were a liability for that third pairing last season. And I think Dan Hamhuis is an absolute boost to that third pairing. And I think that's absolutely something that everybody should really consider, how he's performed over the last couple of years compared to how he performed when he was with Nashville, when he left for Vancouver, and then when he went to Dallas. When he went to Dallas, he became one of the top defensemen on that team. He was playing 19 to 20 minutes a night, and he was having a really successful moment in Dallas. So coming back to Nashville, when he just seemed to get better with age, I think absolutely helps him to where he's not going to be a 19 to 20 minute defenseman. He's going to be a 12 to 13 minute a night defenseman, and that's all that's really going to be asked of him. So I think that's an absolute bonus for the Predators. I think he's going to absolutely bolster that third defensive pairing, especially if they put Yannick Weber with him. And it wouldn't all surprise me because you're really going to have to look. If Dan Hamhuis is on the third defensive pairing, which is likely, and Yannick Weber's there with him, what happens to Matt Irwin? What happens to Anthony Boteto? Matt Irwin's going to be a healthy scratch. So what about Anthony Boteto? He's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. To be honest, he is the eighth best defenseman on the Predators right now. And I actually think if we were to really kind of balance out some of these players in Milwaukee, I think there are players in Milwaukee that are probably a little bit better for Nashville in terms of what they can bring defensively than Anthony Bitetto. And it's not a slight at Anthony Bitetto. It's just the reality of the situation. So I guess my opinion would be I don't really know if he. I would be shocked if he was with the team by the end of the year. I kind of see him either being waived or traded, and I think that would probably be best for Anthony Bitetto because he'll get secured playing time in a market other than Nashville, because Nashville's stacked at defense, and he, like I said, he is the 8th best defenseman on the team. And while that's tough to say, I absolutely Weber over Irwin, but and I'll get to that here in a second. But while that's tough to say about Bitetto, it's the reality of the situation. He's not going to find the playing time he wants in Nashville, and I don't think he'll find that in the next couple of years. I really don't. So for him, I think it would be better if he were to be traded or if he were to be waived and someone else picked him up. I think it would benefit his career. It would fully benefit his career. So that is outside the norm, but or that's not what I meant. That's all for that topic. I don't know why I said outside the norm, but yes, Weber over Irwin any day of the week and twice on Sunday. Absolutely. Irwin's he is a solid defenseman, but I think Yannick Weber offers more defensively than Matt Irwin can. And I think Matt Irwin had some problems last season where he almost became a little bit of a liability. And I'm not talking about a real liability, like a gaping hole in the blue line. I'm talking about there was some, I guess, defensive lapses from Irwin in certain games, certain situations, where could he have made a play to clear the puck out of the zone, and instead he didn't, and it ended up in the back of Nashville's net. There were a few situations like that that really kind of sealed Yannick Weber really taking that spot over Matt Irwin. So I think Matt Irwin is the 7th best defenseman on the team. I think Yannick Weber is the 6th. Dan Hamhuis is the 5th. Matthias Ekholm is the 4th. Ryan Ellis is the 3rd. Roman Josi is the 2nd. Roman Josi. PK Subban is clearly the best defenseman on the team. I think it's kind of a tie between Subban and Josi, but I think if you're going to have to pick one who's the best defenseman on the team, you're going to look at PK Subban. He's not just the face of the defensive core. He is one of the faces of the NHL. And I think that's exactly what you want him to be. And he's pretty good at defense too. So okay, so let's cut it there. It was a good 20 minutes for the first episode. And, of course, you can catch me on Twitter at @KMartel_sports. You can get me every Wednesday night, 8 to 9 p.m. At Neutral Zone 104.5. 104.5 or 104.5thezone.com. You can listen to it there, or you can just turn your radio to 104.5. Listen to us from 8 to 9. You can also call into the show, 615-737-1045, if you ever want to do that. Past that, thank you for watching. If you're catching this on replay, thank you for watching the replay. Comment, like, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. We'll talk soon. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll have more hockey here in the next month.